Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into Hannah and Erik Go Birding. We're a couple of bird brains looking for adventure and some birds.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Erik. And we started this podcast to share our adventures with you and talk about random thoughts and other birding topics. Just a couple of disclaimers, we're not experts in controversial material. We hope you keep an open mind, but also remember that what we discuss is our own opinions.
We hope you've had a great couple of summer weeks. Obviously, we haven't been living in the South long because we still haven't figured out how to get a full day of birding in without overheating.
Yeah, seriously.
So in this week's episode, we will be talking about our most recent trip, which was to Jacksonville, Florida, and also some citizen science.
Yeah. So Hannah, do you have any birding news for the week?
Just a couple of things. We're getting a few more Facebook friends and listeners, so thank you all that helped rep us throughout your friend group. We really appreciate We really appreciate it. You know, the more followers we have, the more friends that we add on Facebook, the more we're encouraged to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So please continue to do that so we can keep sitting here talking about birds. So, other things in the birding world. Did you see about that common merganser in Michigan? Babies trailing her?
Yeah, I saw the picture on Facebook.
It's pretty cool. If you didn't read the article, I'll just summarize it real quick. Ken Kaufman, he commented in the article that ducks will often lay their eggs in nests of other ducks in the same species. He calls it an insurance policy. So if for some reason her nest fails, her nest that will likely survive. So it works out in her favor. She gets her genetic material passed on, even if her nest fails.
Kind of seems like the opposite of what coots do.
Yeah. But he also did state that she likely picked up a couple of chicks along the way that were separated from their mothers because realistically she can only 20 eggs at a time. And in the picture she had 50, and then it was recorded the next couple days afterwards that she had 76 with her. So tons of little babies.
Could you imagine trying to sit on like 50 eggs?
Could you imagine trying to herd all those little chicks?
That's ridiculous.
Especially in the straight line that she had in the picture. That's amazing. Yeah. Better than any kindergarten. Especially in the straight line that she had in the picture. That's amazing. Yeah. Better than any kindergarten teacher. So lastly, there were a few cool birds that have landed since our most recent podcast. There was a Zenaida dove.
Zenaida, maybe?
Maybe. That was seen in Miami-Dade by a bunch of people in Laramie, Wyoming, which is pretty cool. And that is considered a first record for this time period since they were endangered. And I don't even know if they were listed as extinct, but they were severely endangered for a long time. And so now they're starting to improve after a lot of work done by some great scientists. There was a crested caracara that was spotted in South Dakota. This is the state's second sighting of that bird. And also a limpkin was seen in Alabama, which just goes to prove my point that they're heading over Texas to eat their apple snails, which I've been saying they're going to do. Yeah,
and those things are monsters over there.
Those apple snails, yeah. It'd be a whole meal right there.
Yeah, so real quick on what the code 5 for the Zenaida dove means. So ABA has a...
American Birding Association.
Yeah, American Birding Association has designated codes for all the birds, for every bird species, Code 1s and 2s are regular birds. They're not rare. Pretty much can know you're going to go see code 1 or code 2 every time you go out. Things like red-winged blackbird and stuff like that
would probably be a code 1, and then maybe like a blue jay for like code 2, since you don't see a lot of them at a time.
Numbers of individuals typically. Code 3 means that it's rare. It occurs in low numbers, but is expected annually within the ABA area. Which the ABA area, for those of you that don't remember, is the U.S. including Canada, Alaska, and as of this year, the U.S., including Canada, Alaska, and as of this year, Hawaii.
Yay, Hawaii.
So then moving on to code 4, species is called casual. It's not recorded every year, but there's been at least 6 records. And then code 5, which is what the Zenaida dove is, it's an ultra rare. 5 or fewer sightings ever, and less than 3 within the last 30 years. And there's also the elusive code 6 birds, things like ivory-billed woodpecker, which I think is a code 5. We'll find it.
Yeah, we're going to find it someday. So, on to...
We'll find it.
Yeah, we're going to find it someday. So, on to business. This last weekend, we decided to take a little trip down to the northeast coast of Florida to a place that had a few possible lifers for us.
Yeah, lifers, birds that we haven't seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, so this time we were looking for a twister. And I had heard a lot about a tern colony that was there that was pretty amazing. So we got off work on Friday and headed straight to Jacksonville so we could go check it out. We checked into the hotel whose water had been shut off for repairs. So we headed to find a bathroom somewhere because it was about a 3-hour drive. We both had to pee.
Oh yeah.
Which seems to be the story of that day. And we ended up at Atlantic Beach Brewing Company, which is a great little spot for some locally crafted beer out in Jacksonville.
Yeah, their slogan is aggressively pursuing craft. That's something that I like. I can get behind that.
Coincidentally, the restaurant that had been recommended to me was less than 1,000 feet from the brewery. Colehan's Irish Pub. And that place is legit Irish. The hostess was Irish. The owners were Irish. They had live Irish bands come. They even had harp on tap, which is pretty exciting for me. It was our kind of place. We love little pubs like that. I almost feel like we were following Guy Fieri around, though, because we keep going to restaurants that are on diners, drive-ins, and dives. But I guess the guy has some pretty good taste.
Yeah, I guess so. Even though he's got that crazy hair.
I had that hair in middle school.
Yeah. We went to were closed. Huguenot Park was closed that evening by the time we got there. But we did drive around the loop right out front of Fort George Island Cultural State Park. It was about a 5-mile drive around the little peninsula overlooking some coastal wetlands.
Yeah, there were grassy wetlands to the right, plantation-style mansions.
Wetlands.
Yeah, there were grassy wetlands to the right, plantation-style mansions to the left. It was pleasant.
Yeah, it was a pretty good spot to to cross off some forest birds for the county. Got titmouse, chickadee, white-eyed vireo. We even had a couple peacocks. The road was pretty rough, though.
Yeah, which wasn't great because remember, as I said, that having to pee. So every pothole felt it in my bladder. And I feel like Erik was hitting the potholes pretty aggressively.
I was going kind of slow. But we didn't do a lot of dilly-dallying on that drive. So we had an early morning appointment with some more birds.
So Saturday morning, I couldn't sleep. It was either because I was so excited to go birding, or who knows what. I woke up at about 4 a.m. Waited for Erik's alarm to go off to wake him up at 5, so we could get rolling for the day.
Yeah, and our first stop had to be Dunkin' Donuts because the coffee at the hotel was basically warm brown water. Yep. But after a short pit stop, we made our way to Huguenot Memorial Park, our destination from the evening before that was closed. But
at least we knew how to drive there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's on the northeast side of Jacksonville. We arrived at about 6:15, so the sun was just barely coming up. It gave us time to defog our binoculars and camera lenses before the birds became active.
And for those of you not in the South, because of the humidity, you have to do that. You have to defog your lenses. Otherwise, you spend the first 15 birds or so cursing yourself and wiping your lenses constantly because they keep fogging up and you have to defog. But that defog time did give us a chance to orient ourselves to the park. And I don't know about you, but it is so hard for me to understand a park fully from a map and a website. I really just have to see it and drive around it to understand what's going on.
Oh, I think I do pretty well looking at the map, figuring it out, but doesn't help a lot.
So right at sunrise, we followed the signs to the non-4-wheel drive spots as we were taking the trip in the Adventure Mini Cooper, which has low clearance and only front-wheel drive, so we didn't want to get stuck. And it took us a little inland lake that had a few fishermen.
As productive as we had hoped it was, so thought we'd be a little bit more daring and follow the signs to the 4-wheel drive area, which the 4-wheel drive area just turned out to be hard-packed sand on a well-worn path. So the Adventure Mini Cooper had not a problem getting through any of that.
She does it again.
Yeah, so we made it out to the for a quick stop by the North Jetty of the St.
Again.
Yeah, so we made it out to the for a quick stop by the North Jetty of the St. Johns River.
And we were pleasantly surprised by the North Jetty. At first, Erik just stood on the top of the rocks, and we didn't see much at first.
Except for that random lady doing yoga and filming herself while doing it out there on a flat rock. I was behind her, so if you ever see this lady on YouTube or something, I'm the guy behind her with binoculars trying to see some birds.
Yeah, not creeping.
Yeah, not creeping at all.
The tide started coming really fast, so we moved the car up the beach because we didn't want to get stuck, and we went to the other side of the jetty for another try. And there was a pretty wide, short beach on the other side that had Royal Terns and laughing gulls and a few ruddy turnstones. Then all of a sudden, there was a flash of shorebird shot right before the sand and right before our eyes, which I'm sure many of you have experienced this before. And it went down to the water, and it was basically red knot, which is a lifer.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I got a pretty good look at the wing pattern and the overall size. It made me think red knot also. Hen and I were both in agreement that that's pretty much what we saw. Definitely a red knot. Not an unusual bird for the area, but a lifer. It was super exciting because we weren't really. It wasn't even on our radar. We weren't anticipating that bird, but
after the excitement died on that, we went to go look for some other lifers.
Yeah. Some of the things that we're actually hunting for, like the elusive reddish egret we've been after for a while, and the great black-backed gull.
So that was pretty exciting. But we got back in the Adventure Mini, #Adventure Mini, and we were so glad we moved it up the beach because one of the paddle boarders that was there right off the jetty was driving an FJ Cruiser that was getting swallowed by the ocean right then, which looked pretty. Feel like we could have pushed it out maybe, but that FJ Cruiser, those things are heavy.
Yeah, if that guy was by himself, I don't think he's getting it out by himself.
Yeah. So we cruised down the beach a little bit more. We saw some more turnstones, laughing gulls, and a single ring-billed gull that just kind of stood there and watched us drive past. And then off in the distance,
Royal Terns. They were darkening the sky. It was like gulls at a landfill. It was insane. I took a recording with my phone. That was what you heard in the intro for this episode, but that doesn't do any justice. The sound was just deafening. It was so loud. I guess deafening is the best word. We couldn't hear ourselves think. We almost had to yell. I guess deafening is the best word. We couldn't hear ourselves think. We almost had to yell to be able to talk back and forth to each other. Just over the sound of all the young begging for food, the adults looking for their babies. It was loud.
Because of this giant colony of Royal Terns at Huguenot Memorial Park, a portion of it has been designated as a critical wildlife area by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. So a lot of the nesting location is closed off to protect nesting birds, which didn't really inhibit us at all. Like we saw them pretty close.
Oh yeah, we were well behind their exclusion zone, but they're landing out. But I honestly don't know why you'd want to get any closer than anywhere near those ropes. That's the smell that was coming off them. Those birds have definitely not been able to find a proper toilet.
Fortunately, it wasn't on us.
Yeah. Surprisingly.
Yeah. I have a habit of that happening. So this was really one of the coolest places I think I've ever been. I read lots of books on albatross when I was younger, and thinking about those islands that the albatross nest on, I've never been to one of those locations, but I feel like this was pretty similar. It was just super cool to see that many young in a given place, and it was just super cool to see that many young in a given place, and in varying stages of age too. There are some little babies, some older juveniles.
Oh yeah, there were some that looked like they're right about to start flying. They
still begging for food.
Yeah, still begging for food, even though they're almost fully developed. And then there was, of course, the nestlings that were just
really neat to see these birds up close and watch the interactions between the adults and the babies.
Yeah, and watching them, the little fledglings waddle over them. They didn't even care that we were there. The parents would land within feet of us and then just start waddling over as they chirp and try to find their babies. There was even one other photographer out there, and he expensive. But he was out there and trying to take with his monster lens take photos of the parents that were landing like 5 feet from him. So I thought that was comical, seeing someone with such a large lens, birds landing so close.
Yeah. After we got our fill of baby birds, we headed up to Little Talbot Island State Park to find that stinking reddish egret. And guess what?
What?
We found it.
Oh, man. Yeah, so the individual we found was an immature white morph. So basically it looked like a dark-billed great egret, but...
Yeah, anticlimactic, I know. But Eric just had to see it.
Yeah, didn't have it on my Florida list, so we needed to find it. So the reason we went to these areas in particular was because of my favorite website, ebird.org. It's a citizen science project used by birders to document and share sightings of birds from all across the whole world. The website also keeps track of each of the individual's user data that you've uploaded. So keeping track of lists over the years is super easy, and within seconds you can find out how many birds you have within any county, state, or country. And
how many times did it take us to find a reddish egret?
It took us a while to get the reddish egret.
It's a lot easier than the old way of calling or the phone tree.
Yeah, but I was able to see that I didn't have reddish egret on my list, and so I brought up the eBird map of recent sightings of reddish egret, and we saw a grouping over by Huguenot Park and Little Talbot Island State Park. And that gave us an idea that we should just head on over there and see if we can find them.
Yeah, so looking into citizen science, because what we're talking about now with eBird is citizen science project, the boring definition is that it's a collection and analysis of data relating to the natural world by members of the general public. And typically that's done as part of a collaborative effort with professional scientists. I like to think of it as contributing data about the natural world towards the greater good, but you don't have to have all the degrees to do it.
Yeah, and I really love citizen science projects. My favorite, of course, is eBird, but I also like iNaturalist, both of which the general public can post sightings of species, pictures, or just notes of seeing them. And then it contributes to the greater body of knowledge on any number of families. iNaturalist can do plants, animals, insects.
And there's some pretty common things that people do that they might not realize is contributing to citizen science, such as Nest Watch and Project Feeder Watch. These things are super powerful and important programs that lots of people do that help add to the scientific knowledge.
Yeah, and I think a fantastic...
The scientific knowledge.
Yeah, and I think a fantastic thing about a project like iNaturalist is it gives everyone another reason to get outside, walk some trails, or even just wander around like their apartment complex or their backyard. Because I know I always have my phone with me, and it has a digital camera on it. So I can just snap a spider or a leaf that I'm not familiar with and post the geotagged picture on iNaturalist and get some help identifying it. And experts or amateurs or whoever from all around the world can give their input of what they think that individual is.
So I do have a possible and other citizen science projects. And that's that the general public is participating in these projects. And so that I feel might potentially harm the research integrity. For example, I could go to iNaturalist right now and make some ridiculous claims on there and identifications, and then create a second account to agree with claims to make them research grade observations. Of course, I'm not the kind of person that wants to watch the world burn, but there's little regulation, so bad data could be introduced, which might cause an overall lower quality of information. For example, I might go on there with a old picture of an ivory-billed woodpecker, that I've updated, so it looks newer, and get my fake account, my backup account, to say, yeah, ivory-billed woodpecker, and so it might be in my backyard, and that just adds to it. Of course, that's an extreme example, but it's still a possibility.
Well, that's a good point, but I think with the number of contributors on any of these sites, eBird or iNaturalist, and the willingness they are to call people out on wrong information, I think that really mitigates that bad data having an impact on the overall integrity of the program.
I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I just want to play devil's advocate because I love doing that, So what if an industry or a private organization uses these bad data or these bad observations to show a higher abundance of something that's not very common, like northern spotted owl in Oregon? What if somebody goes on there and says, posts them all over the place and says, oh my gosh, there's hundreds of spotted owls, what are we worrying about? And trying to use that, and it says that they're recovering a lot better than they actually are.
Yeah, I think that's possible, but that's also there's also like thoroughly vetted scientific projects out there that are done by people not of the general public. And the citizen science projects can help be a huge contributor to the general scientific body of knowledge, but they don't need to be. It doesn't need to be the be all end all for all research projects. It doesn't need to be the be all end all for all research projects. I mean, I'm not like one of those highfalutin scientists, but I can still contribute to citizen science and feel like I'm making an impact by doing my best to make the best observations and post them to these projects.
That's a good point. Hundreds of other citizen science projects that you can get involved with. And whether that's from the comfort of your own home, in your own laptop, just sitting here watching the TV, on Zooniverse, or maybe doing observation, like contributing information to the observations on iNaturalist, which is fun to do.
Yeah. Saturday
morning with a cup of coffee and bird online. Or you can get highly involved with these things, like participating in a BioBlitz, which there's BioBlitzes going on all over the place, and they're a lot of fun to participate in. And contributing that data to projects like iNaturalist. And, there's projects that you can contribute to that range from things like inflation, which I was really bad at when I tried that, to spotting whales during like a whale watch, or even there's some to help map asteroids, which I think would be pretty interesting that you might like. There's something that anyone can have an interest in and contribute to the greater good. And if you're just sitting there doing it while you're drinking, interest in and contribute to the greater good. And if you're just sitting there doing it while you're drinking coffee, it's not that big a commitment.
Yeah, it's not taking a big chunk out of your day.
No, but it can really impact somebody's research and help them further what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but I can't believe that we've talked about citizen science for this long. And at the end of December, beginning of January, and people from all around the world have been participating for decades. It's some of the locations have data of wintering birds all the way back to the early 1900s. It's expansive. And you can usually look up online, find your circle. Expansive. And you can usually look up online, find your circle. Find a handful of circles in pretty much every city, especially within the United States. Pretty much every city has a couple at least. Originally, naturalists would go out on Christmas Day and shoot as many birds as they could, but in 1900, Frank Chapman proposed that instead of shooting all the birds and counting them, you should just go out and just count them. But I think we'll discuss this further when we get a little closer to the Christmas time.
Yeah, get everybody pumped up about it.
Yeah, I think we probably talked about citizen science and Christmas bird counts enough. Enough probably.
What? No. Well, thank you guys for listening to our podcast. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something maybe. So please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Music, and anywhere else you listen to us. If you email us at hannahhandericgobirding@gmail.com. Yeah, I know. It's got a lot of words in it. That's what we went with. So tell us what you hated and what you liked, what you'd like us to talk about. If there's a specific topic that you'd like us to look into, we'd be happy to do that. If you'd like us to stop talking about something, we'll consider do that. If you'd like us to stop talking about something, we'll consider your request. We're working on some bumper stickers maybe, or some other swag. So if you connect with us, maybe you'd be in the first line of people to get some of that stuff. So keep an eye out and share with your friends and help us build a following. We're going to include some of these things that we talked about today in our show notes, like our eBird list from the different parks we went to last weekend, as well as some citizen science projects that you can get to be a part of and help contribute to. So there's nothing else, Eric?
No, I think that's...
I heard about this grasshopper sparrow we should go find in Georgia this weekend.
Georgia, you say?
Yeah, Georgia.
Well, I guess we...